Have you ever wondered about MotoGP tires? Maybe you're new to the sport, or maybe you're a long-term fan like me and you've heard the broadcasters mention about tires and tire choices, but you have no idea what they're talking about. It's actually very simple to understand when you know what you're looking for. Let me explain. In MotoGP, there is a single manufacturer which all riders and competitors must use for their tyres. That manufacturer is Michelin and will be until 2026. You guys know Michelin, the Michelin Man? We've all seen him before. Now onto the tyres themselves. There are two options for the tyres. If you're riding on a dry track, those tyres are called slicks, and if you're riding on a wet track, those tyres are called wets. On the slicks, the riders have a choice between either a softer option tyre or a harder option tyre. Now there are pros and cons to both of these. Let's go with the harder option first. The harder option tyre means that tyre would last the entire race distance before falling apart. The con to this though is it does take longer to warm up, so you might not necessarily get to the front of the pack as quickly as you like. Where with the softer option tyre, it does warm up quicker, meaning you could get to that front of the pack quicker, but you run the risk of the tyre falling apart before the race is completed. Now both the harder and the softer option tyres are broken down once again into different compounds. We have symmetrical, which means that both sides of the tyre are the same compound, or asymmetrical or dual compound, which means both sides of the tyre are different compounds. You may use a asymmetrical or a dual compound tyre if a circuit has a lot more left corners to right, for example, where one side of that tyre is getting a lot more use than the other. Now on the home broadcast and the visuals that they display, they will tell us what tyre has been chosen by the rider. But if you are lucky enough to visit a MotoGP bike in person, you can have a look at those tyres yourselves, and by defining the colour code, you will know what tyre that is on that bike. So for example, the yellow sticker means that is the harder choice tyre. If it's black, it means that it's the medium, and if it's white, that is the softer option. Now, you can tell the difference between slick tyres and wet tyres by the little grooves that are in the actual tyre themselves. If there are grooves in the tyre, that means they are wet. And those grooves are there to disperse the water when the track gets slippery. Slick tyres are aptly named slicks because there is no grooves in them. They're completely black and round. Now there is a few lesser options with the wet tyres. Usually they come in a soft or a medium compound, and depending on the circuit or the track that they're at, they will have an asymmetrical or symmetrical compound as well. At every Grand Prix, riders have a certain amount of allocated tyres they are allowed for that weekend. When it comes to slicks, riders are allocated 22 tyres, that is 10 fronts and 12 rears. The 12 rear tyres can then be broken down into 7 of the softer options and 5 of the harder options. Now this can be combined between the soft, medium and hard. Now the 10 front tyre allocations are made up by choosing a mixture of soft, medium, hard, but riders can only select a maximum of 5 of their favourite compound. The two riders who progress through from Q2 to Q1 are also given an extra 1 front tyre of their choosing and an extra soft rear tyre. The allocation of the wet weather tyres is as follows, 13 in total. That is 6 fronts and 7 rears. So what about qualifying then? Well, in qualifying, riders use an extra soft tyre. So like we stated earlier, the softer the tyre, the more likely you are to get to the front of the pack, but the less of a lifespan it has. This is why you'll often see riders do a short stint. They will do a warm-up lap, they will then complete their fast lap to set their qualifying time before completing a cool-down lap and returning back to the garage. Now, in recent headlines, you may have heard riders talk about tyre pressure and wondered how that affects their bikes. Well, let me explain. All bikes in MotoGP are fitted with a TPMS, tyre pressure monitoring system. This system sends the tyre pressure and temperatures back to the manufacturers, the teams, and the riders can also view this on their dash. Now, this is where tyre pressures come into play. The difference in the tyre pressure can dramatically affect the way the bike handles on the track. The lower the pressure, the better the grip. The higher the pressure, and the opposite occurs. Plus, a good front tire can dramatically affect corner speed, corner entry, and exit as well. So you're probably wondering, well, why do they not just run a really low tire pressure then if you give the riders more grip? Well, this is because the lower the tire pressure, the more chances of the tire wall actually weakening. And if this was to occur, this could cause a catastrophic event. Now, this is where the regulated tire pressures come into play. If riders do not abide by the regulated tire pressures, they will be sanctioned for their actions. And this is how the TPMS system records this data and sends it back. The choice for what tire to use will be made between the rider and the team. Now, the team will have a lot of data that they would have stored from previous times they have raced at that track or potentially tested there, and the rider will more likely go by feel and relay information back to the team. So between the two, they will then choose the right tire for that bike. On top of this, there are a lot of other factors that come into play when choosing a tire, such as the track itself, the weather conditions, maybe the track has recently been resurfaced, and these are just a few. So as you can see, tires on a MotoGP bike are not just a basic black thing that they throw on the bike and send the rider out on track. They are another aspect of what makes MotoGP so technical and interesting to follow. So I hope this gives you a little bit more understanding into the wonderful world of MotoGP. Now, next time you're watching the broadcast at home, make sure to check out those super slow-mos that they sometimes show where you can see the color coding of the tires that we were talking about earlier, and you might see what tire that rider has chosen. If you like this content, please like and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys soon.